Welcome to episode 1022, Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you kindly to everybody out there, as always, for listening, watching, however you consume this show. I appreciate you guys so much. Also, shout out to today's sponsor, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. 50-cent wings on Wednesdays, dollar chicken tendies on Thursdays. Still haven't had those yet. Got to get there for that. Karaoke every other Saturday. And I'm telling you, I've been there. That place pops for karaoke. If you're a singer, you like to get your sing on, and you want to go somewhere where a lot of people are going to listen, watch, and appreciate it, that is definitely the place to be. Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road. All right, folks, this is our Friday episode, of course, and this is going to be a Podbag. I love these. You know that. These are the episodes where you control the narrative, your questions, your comments, your takes. I pull them, the best of them, from our YouTube channel. A lot of you tweet at me, handful of emails, stuff like that. And we make a show out of this driven by things that you want mentioned. Primarily, as usual, Buffalo Bills stuff, couple Sabre things, though, that I got tucked away for near the end as well. Before we get going, real quick, too, a quick podcasting slash branding note. I finally, after multiple years, got the domain talkingbuffalo.com. If you've been around, you're an OG to this show, and you've been around pretty much from the start. First, 2 years, this was called Moranalytics Podcast. And we had a website, moranalytics.com. Got switched over to Talking Buffalo, the name of the show, and never did anything with domain. Barely used it at all. I would post a podcast, still have every day, but that would be it. So I'd have to send people to go to this site or that site. So now I put everything into kind of a one-stop place. TalkingBuffalo.com. Every podcast, every link to this podcast, to every platform, whether you watch it, whether you listen to it, it's going to be available on TalkingBuffalo.com. Also going to start posting all my occasional written stuff there. Do some TV reviews, movie reviews, of course, wing reviews from time to time. Some videos, maybe some content that isn't necessarily on this podcast, occasional announcements, things like that. So everything going forward, just go to Talking Buffalo. If you want to link up to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, any of our social media, everything is going to be on there. Again, one more time, talkingbuffalo.com. All right, let's get into a pod bag that I'm really looking forward to jumping into, because there's some really, really good shit on here. Let's start with at Brian Connor, who says, what an incredible job by Brandon Beane to get all these extensions done this offseason. He deserves so much credit. So do the players. Khalil Shakir, Terrell Bernard, Greg Rizzo, and Christian Benford could have gotten a lot more money in free agency next year, but took the hometown discount to stay here for years to come, when they could have set the market next year. It's remarkable. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Brian. Look, Brandon Beane and his staff definitely deserve a lot of credit. Getting the core done was their top priority. It was literally a full year in the making. Brandon Beane has talked about this process. It started when they said goodbye to a lot of core veterans a year ago. Jordan Poyer, Trey White, Mitch Morse. They let Gabe Davis walk. They traded Stephon Diggs. A lot of core players, a lot of money being put to use for this coming off season. And the plan was always to lock up their own. Getting that core done, top priority, mission accomplished 100%. This Bills core, for the most part, is now in place literally for the next 4 to 5 years in most cases. That's awesome. especially when you're a winning football team. That's really awesome. As long as they stay healthy with the guys that they just extended, Josh Allen, some of these young players continue to develop, this is going to be a football team that is going to perennially be in the mix. It's a very good team, and Brandon Beane has done an incredible job, not just him, the entire staff of locking these guys up. And a real quick note, too. I want to say this. I was asked a question, not using it on today's Podbag. It was asked a question about how much credit does Terry Bagula deserve for everything that's going on with the Bills because of all the bullshit that goes on with the Buffalo Sabres. I decided to kind of shelf that question for today. I'm going to talk about that on our Monday podcast, the Sunday Night Live on the video with Joe from Queens, because I do think that Terry Bagula doesn't get enough credit for being an owner who's willing to pay out these signing bonuses, spend to the salary cap. All the shit that we accuse him of, rightfully so, with the Buffalo Sabres, complete opposite with the Buffalo Bills. So when we say Brandon Beane deserves all this credit, he does deserve the credit, but so does the staff, and so does, quite frankly, the owner. I just want to throw that out there, quick detour. Anyway, there's a great chance that the Bills did save some money long term here with these deals. Maybe a lot of money down the road by getting these deals done now. No question. I think back to the Spencer Brown deal. They signed him over a year or so ago. Kind of felt like kind of sort of a lot of money at the time, but he was borderline phenomenal last season. I think Spencer Brown's become easily one of the top 5 or so right tackles in football. If Brandon Beane didn't get that contract done when he did, instead of 17, 18 million or whatever, he probably is paying 23, 24 million. He probably saved about 4 to 5 million or so per year on that contract by proactively getting it done. Probably the strongest part of Brandon Beane's regime here as general manager is his ability to consistently identify the guys that are worth extending and getting deals done that feel relatively, if not completely, team friendly. So there's literally not a single negative thing to say about any of these extensions, in my opinion, anyway. None of them were undeserving, and I don't think any of them were overpaid. But this is where it kind of turned a little bit. What I will say, and I got to say this, maybe let's chill a little bit on the whole huge hometown discount, and these guys could have reset the market if they wanted vibes. I get it. You're a Bills fan. I'm a Bills fan. We talk Bills all the time. Some of us live, breathe, sleep Buffalo Bills. We know the players probably more intimately than 90% of the people around the country do, for sure. Okay. But the whole hometown discount thing, I don't know about that, man. These are the guys they just, they locked up here. And again, my opinion, maybe yours differs. These are good to very good players who got paid solid market value of what they're worth. I think it's possible people who are fans perhaps overrate their own guys just maybe a teeny little bit here, if we're being honest. And let's kind of run through these quickly here. So Khalil Shakir got a contract that's paying him $18 million guaranteed and an average of about $13.25 million per season. All these numbers that I'm throwing at you at this point right now are from Over the Cap. Outstanding website. Anyway, so yeah, 18 million guaranteed, 13.25 annual average. That makes him the 26th highest paid wide receiver annually per, again, Over the Cap. That is like low end wide receiver 1, kind of higher end wide receiver 2 money. To me, that feels right. It's pretty good value. That said, it's not a steal by any means. I don't know how team friendly that contract really is. Now, listen, he's very valuable, and he's also ascending. 2 years from now, you want to take the stance that, hey, these guys are just peaking. And, 2 years from now, More people are going to get more money. These guys, their play is still ascending. This could become a great bargain. I agree with that. I'm not going to push back on that. But right now, as things stand today, Khalil Shakir being the 26th highest paid wide receiver annually in the league feels relatively right. Is Khalil Shakir one of the 26 best wide receivers in the NFL right now? Probably not. Probably not. But around that area. So, anyway, my point is this: good market deal, fair deal for both sides. I don't think it was a hometown discount. I think that's relative to what he deserves. Terrell Bernard, $14 million. He got guaranteed money, and he's going to average about $10.5 million. That puts him 12th among linebackers in the league on average. Again, feels about right. Terrell Bernard is a good to very good, borderline at this point, great player. No Pro Bowls yet. Again, I think it's value. I don't think it's a steal. I don't think it's hometown discount. I think that's what his worth is relative to what he got paid right now. And again, I'm not going to keep saying it, but just like with Shakir, 2 years from now, he's the 12th highest paid linebacker. He might only be the 16th or 17th highest paid linebacker, and his play may continue to ascend. If it does, absolutely, it'll end up being a great value, a bargain, so to speak. But what these players have done in their careers to this point, and Terrell Bernard's got a lot of game in him. But I think he was just, and we've talked about this before, I've been open and honest about it. I think Terrell Bernard was good last season. I don't think he was spectacular. I thought he was better in 2023. The injury, I'm sure, played a role in it, just like with a lot of players this year. But he had some really great games. I mean, that Baltimore game, probably the defensive player of the year, knocking that ball out from Andrews after a completion. That was so big, so huge. But there's other games, including the Kansas City game, where he was just out there. So anyway, relative, I think, to what he's been to this point. Greg Rousseau, $49 million guaranteed, and he's got an average salary of $20 million per year. That's 11th most among edge rushers in the NFL. I consider this decent value. Absolutely not a hometown discount. Absolutely not a bargain either. Now, I know when we spent time before free agency, on this show, other shows you've listened to, articles you've read, Spot Rack, Over the Cap, and you looked at market projections, it was 22, 23, maybe 25 million. So to come in at $20 million feels like a bargain. I'm not going to say that it's a bargain because, again, he is a very good player, but he's never had 9 sacks in a season, and he's been in the league for 4 years now, okay? It's not a little small sample size anymore. Unlike Bernard, and it's just my own personal opinion, but unlike Bernard, unlike Shakir, I think there's still potentially plenty of ascension to come. I think what you see is what you get with Greg Rousseau. And again, that is a very, very good football player. But you're going to be a top 12 paid edge rusher in this league. I feel like you really want to get a guy who's going to get the quarterback down to the ground double digit times. And I know sacks can be incredibly overrated, 100%. Pressures mean a lot. Win rate means a lot. Being good against the run means a lot. And Greg Rousseau's really good against that. The penchant for making a big play when it matters. There's lots of factors beyond just sacks where you really have to evaluate somebody. And like I said, there's not a bad contract for the Bills. I'm not bitching about it. I'm not complaining about it. It wasn't a bad contract for the Bills. I'm just saying, at best, I think it's fair value. I think it's what he could deserve. That's it. Period. End of the story. If it was me and I was Brandon Beane and Greg Rousseau's representation came up to me and said, I want my guy wants 49 million guaranteed and he wants 20 million per year for 4 years, I would have been like, okay, done. I'll give you that. I think it's worth that. Just saying, it's a relatively fair market deal. Factor in everything. Not a value, not value, not a bargain, certainly not no hometown discount either. Sure. And, these guys didn't bet on themselves by signing these extensions a year early. I wouldn't either. I mean, you get an opportunity to get life changing type money. I think you do it. And I think after 4 years, Greg Rizzo, he knows who he is. I think the Bills know who he is, and what he got paid, I think, is pretty relative to what he is. Now, Christian Benford to me is a little bit different. Okay. This is the one. He got $18.8 million guaranteed and 17.25 million average per season. That's just 19th among the highest paid corners by average in the NFL. He's the one I'd consider a big bargain, the one I consider a steal, the one I consider where maybe you got that hometown discount because he really wants to be here. I'm actually shocked at this deal days later. Objectively, I almost feel like he could have got a lot more in a year if he would have waited, but I get it again. And I also thought he had the leverage. The Bills are razor thin at corner, right? They ain't got nobody right now as we speak right now at corner, not counting Teron Johnson, because to me, the slot guy in the Bills defense is pretty much a third linebacker. I'm talking about your boundary corners, razor thin. They ain't got shit behind Christian Benford. I thought he had a lot of leverage. I thought because of that, I thought this was going to be something that played out over the long haul. Certainly, right now through the draft, maybe in the summer, late in the summer, maybe they work something out right before the season or in season. I thought that was a realistic for me, best case scenario, but I'm definitely wrong. Shocked about it too. And I am, but I get it. Again, you're a 6th-round pick. How do you not take $19 million as guaranteed? And he's probably going to be here for the length of that contract because it's not that much money in the grand scheme of things. This gives Christian Benford, his family, security for the rest of their life, man. I get all that. But anyway, Benford is the huge bargain to me. Okay. The other three are good deals, fair deals. And I think they got paid accordingly to what they are worth at this time. Time will tell if they become bargains or not. But right now, as we speak, as these contracts got signed, I don't think any of them except for Benford is a steal. I don't think any of them except for Benford is a hometown discount. All in all, an excellent job by Brandon Beane. That can't be stated enough. To get 4 guys done, and we ain't even talking about Josh Allen getting his contract done too. To get those guys done combined with some of the other stuff he's done in free agency is just it's pretty remarkable. It really is. It truly, really is. Anyway, all right, I'm going to take a quick break here because just spent a lot of time talking about that. That was the main topic for the show, but a ton of interesting Bills things coming up. Some about the draft. Of course, James Cook in the news again, too. So some questions and some responses to that as well. So stick around. Be right back. All right, we are back here. Friday episode, Podbag. Some really good stuff coming up here. Sean McDermott's process server says, Beane and McDermott have created a culture that makes their job easier. So yes, kudos to the players realizing what they've got, but someone had to create what made it appealing in the first place. Mind you, I'm a guy who's raked Beane and wants to trade Niagara Falls for Sean McVay. All right, that's a good take, man. I'm with you. Lots of love and plenty of hate for Sean McDermott as well. But tell you what, these players, especially those who's not named Stephon Diggs, by and large, seem to really to love him, to gravitate towards a guy like Sean McDermott. That matters. Definitely matters. Coaching matters. Respect matters. Vibes matter. Environments matter. Of course, winning matters the most, but absolutely, man. Major props to Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane for creating a culture that does make it easier for players to want to stay here. At Stephen A. S., James Cook is not worth $15 million, and he's whining about it publicly and now put his house up for sale in Orchard Park. Trade him. We don't need him. We have the MVP. Good riddance. All right. I picked this one specifically, but I promise you there's been plenty of other ones that kind of, for the most part, share the same sentiments as Stephen here when it comes to James Cook. Everyone each is a real thing, but the the eagerness so many Bills fans have right now to replace their top, in my opinion, their top non Josh Allen weapon on offense in back-to-back years and replace them with less than, just mind blowing to me. It really is. I mean, sooner or later, you have to load up heavier when it comes to skill position players. You can't rely on Josh Allen to be the MVP every week to have a successful offense. Last year, they jettisoned Stephon Diggs, and it worked out. The whole everyone eats thing, it was real. Receivers, no one specifically, other than maybe Shakir, a little bit, kind of stood out, but everybody played a role. It seemed like every week someone else was leading the team in receiving yards and receptions. I get all that. That worked last year. Running back room, absolutely fantastic. I think James Cook, far and away, personally, was their best weapon, not named Josh Allen last year. I thought he was sensational, and a lot of people like to argue that. I get it. That's just my take. I think James Cook was really, really good last year. And now people want to trade him, want to get rid of him, whatever. Right now, it's like, you can't keep losing your best players around Josh Allen every year and expect him to just continue to be great. I know they did sign Josh Palmer. Got some thoughts on him. I like Josh Palmer, by the way. But man, if you're not going to go get yourself, an alpha wide receiver, that's okay. But now you want to get rid of your best running back too. And I know they got two pretty good running backs behind them, but neither of them are James Cook, man. They're just not. And I'll tell you what, in terms of James Cook, I'll say this. I'll never hate on a player, especially in the NFL, for trying to get paid when and while they can. It's the only league in major professional sports where your contract don't mean shit other than the guaranteed money, the signing bonus that you get. And even that shit can be deceiving, right? James Cook may not be worth $15 million per year right now, but I think he's certainly worth more than the $5 million he's due to get this final year of his contract. And, running backs, generally speaking, they get one real crack at a great contract in their careers. They're drafted, they play to their rookie contract. That second contract, that's it, man. That's the meat and potatoes of what you're going to earn in your career almost all the time. So if he don't get it now, let's say he doesn't get it now, all right? Let's say James Cook's not going to get an extension now, and he doesn't get a raise, no nothing, playing this year for $5 million, and he suffers a major injury, a torn ACL, something like that, which unfortunately happens to running backs a lot, okay? Say that happens. He's going to lose out on millions of dollars in the open market next year. So hating on a player for wanting to get paid in the NFL when they get that opportunity to me is just stupid. And I also hate how easily replaceable a lot of people think James Cook is. I said it. I don't have it in me to plead that case again. I just did kind of on this show. But come on, man. He's a great running back. And I've said it over and over and over and over again. If the best thing you could do to devalue James Cook, the biggest thing you have against him is to say he only plays half the snaps, I'm going to reverse that shit on you, man. I'm going to say it, playing less keeps him fresher and a lot less wear and tear on his tires at this point of his career, right? And, him not being on the field against the Chiefs, that's a Joe Brady thing, man. That's not a James Cook thing. That's a Joe Brady thing. Check your offensive coordinator. There were times where James Cook should have been on the field and he wasn't. To me, that's an OC problem more than it is a James Cook problem. But yeah, some people saying, oh, he only plays after snaps. Good. I don't need him out there 75, 80% of the time because I got the MVP of the NFL back there, okay? Slinging the ball around, using his own legs. I just need James Cook to be very effective when he's on the field. And holy shit, man, he's effective when he's on the field. So to to say he only plays half the snaps and hold that against him, to me, that's not the insult you think it is talking about his snap percentage. My philosophy stays the same. If I'm Brandon Beane at this point, okay, I'm not going to pay the guy $15 million. He's not going to meet me in the middle. I think all these extensions that got done, all of them to this point, their representation met Brandon Beane at a point he felt good with. It seems, without having inside knowledge, it seems right now, James Cook says, I want this money, says to his agents, I ain't taking less. I'm not meeting you in the middle. And Brandon Beane's like, all right, well, then you're not getting an extension. So I get that. But my philosophy stays the same right now. Find a way to give him a salary bump for this year, this season. Give him a raise for this year. That could prevent any potential bullshit, okay? Holdouts, hold-ins, bad attitude, less than 100%, unwillingness to play through an injury he otherwise would have played through. Things like that. You know what I'm talking about. Give him a raise this year. Let him play this season out and see what happens after this season, which at this point is pretty obvious, if not before, is surely going to result in him leaving. And if he does go get that $15 million a year or so, and you're not the one who's going to pay him, you're going to get a nice comp pick as compensation. But that's where I'm at with him. I can't stand that only playing half the snap as an insult. To me, I got no issue with that. You got two good running backs behind him. Give me a fresh James Cook out there, a guy who's going to be effective when he is. Anyway, all right, Jeff Bernard says, Patrick, I have a gut feeling the Bills are looking to trade Cook at the draft. Move picks and Cook for a large jump up the board or game changer on defense. Tell you what, and thank you for that, Jeff. A month ago, I had James Cook trade percentage at probably less than 5%. I'm like, that shit is not going to happen. After Brandon Beane's comments at the owner meetings this past Sunday, I bumped it up to 15, maybe even 20%. Today, as we record this on late Thursday afternoon, after learning about, which has become news now, James Cook has his house in Orchard Park listed for sale. I'm probably all the way up to about 35% right now. I don't like it, but I think it's on the table now, and undeniably so. And I will say, I've been a big James Cook defender, and I'll continue to be. But what I will say is him doing shit like that, getting his house listed, and come on, I mean, I haven't heard from him. I don't know what he's going to say, if he question about it, or if he says anything at all. But doing stuff like that in April, and the public talking about getting your money and 15 million, stuff like that. I don't think, and it certainly is not endeared himself to Bills fans, nor should it. Nor should it. I don't think he's handled this situation very well. I think he's close to being worth what he wants, because I still think he's got plenty of good football left in him for sure. But the way he's went about it, kind of been bullshit. Might get to a point, and maybe he's doing it on purpose. Stephon Diggs more or less forced his way out of Buffalo a year ago. Maybe, just maybe, James Cook is working on doing that. Interesting, and we'll see how it plays out. Sherman G ETS2. Name me something Bills related that feels like a mystery to you in April. Good question. I'd say, you know what? What's up with Rasul Douglas? That's my answer. What's up with Rasul? Why is he not back with the Buffalo Bills? The mystery to me is Rasul Douglas asking for more money than the Bills are willing to pay him? Or do the Bills simply not want him back? That's a fair question. My gut feeling, no inside knowledge whatsoever, is I don't think the Bills, at this point anyway, I just don't think they want him back. At least not right now. They got Dane Jackson on the cheap. Sean McDermott has a history with Dane Jackson. I think ideally he is certainly your CB3 coming up, first corner off the bench. And they want a longer term, younger, cost controlled rookie that they'll get in the draft. I feel like that's the strategy right now. I kind of got mixed feelings on it because I like Rasul Douglas. I really do. But objectively speaking, he was not nearly the same player last year that he was when the Bills traded for him in 2023. Kind of made me, the Bills kind of made the same mistake sort of last year, bringing back DaQuan Jones on a deal. Not that it was a huge contract. They signed it for 2 years, but it was expected. It was thought that they're going to try and upgrade defensive tackle. Ultimately, they didn't. They brought back DaQuan Jones a little long in the tooth, I think. Last year he was okay. uh, just okay. I think Brandon Beane this year has tried to avoid the same. But for what it's worth, he has not. He just talked about it a handful of days ago. Joe Douglas and Amari Cooper said he would not rule out bringing both of them back. Um, the fact that no one around the league has signed Rasul Douglas could be telling as well. We'll see. Again, does Rasul Douglas have a set price that he's not taking less, at least not in April or March and April? He's not taking less money and no one just wants to come to that price. Or is there just not any real interest in him around the league right now? Did the league watch tape and say, not someone I'm interested in? We'll see. I don't expect him to be back at this point. That's my expectation. I think they're going to look to the draft. Maybe, and I'm sure other teams will be doing the same with Rasul and some of these other veterans that are still out there. At this point, I feel like let's see what happens in the draft. And if we can't address what we want in the draft, because you never really address every position and every need that you have, then maybe you circle back. But yeah, for now, I think it's a mystery, but I don't expect him back. Apasquale T. Give me an NFL draft hot take I haven't heard anywhere else yet. All right, I don't know if this hasn't been said somewhere else or not, but I haven't heard this anywhere else, and it's this. Notre Dame safety Xavier Watts, and I'm going to keep this short because I want to fly through these now. Notre Dame safety Xavier Watts, probably a second-round pick. I think he's going to be a future Pro Bowler. Absolute stud, man. I think the world of him. He's going to be really good in the NFL. If I were Brandon Beane, I would run to the podium to get him in round 2 if he's there. Again, if I'm Brandon Beane. But the Bills won't. That's what it comes down to. I don't see that happening. Sean McDermott loves Taylor Rapp. He spoke very highly of him just this past week. So they got Rapp already. They invested a second rounder in Cole Bishop just last year. Plus, they signed Forrest from Washington, and they re-signed DeMar Hamlin, a move which, to be honest, I hated. Not so much because I hate DeMar Hamlin, not even so much because I think I'm afraid that he's going to start, which I still am afraid that he'll end up starting. But going and getting DeMar Hamlin, and I think Forrest too, probably eliminates taking a safety early in the draft. And I think a guy like Watts, far and away, could, within less than a year, be the best safety on this football team. If the Bills take Watts or any safety early enough, and either Hamlin or Forrest are out, that's it. One of them are going to be gone, right? And for what it's worth, I like Forrest a lot more. Anyway, with their needs, I don't see the Bills taking Watts, and I think that's going to be a mistake when they don't. If he's even there at 56, he's going to be great in the NFL. I'm telling you now. So that's my take. At Grimlock the Thrasher 1. As a Bills fan, I would give an F for the trade up to the 3rd because you use both Force when you probably could have swapped out 1 for 2/5. And Bond, Isaiah Bond, is whack. Should have tried to get Noel or Royals or taken Kyle Williams, who you probably could have gotten at 109. All right. This is in reference to yesterday's show. We kicked off our Bills 7-round mock draft series. I had David Tilton on from Cover One. I thought he did an outstanding job. I just want to throw that out there right now. And I love how people, and I do it too, all right? So, I'm not trying to act better than. We always criticize other people's mocks. Like we have any freaking idea how the draft is going to end up going, where these guys end up getting drafted. And even if we do, predictively, we get a lot of it right. Who the hell knows how they're going to be 2, 3, 4 years from now? So having definitive takes about players being whack or, this was a terrible trade and stuff like that is just, I guess that's a thing. Anyway, so David and I, directly what he's talking about, we packaged both of our 4s for the Bills, which is 109 and 132, to move up to 96 in the late 3rd round. Which, by the way, we went by the draft value chart for 2025, and the trade was accepted on the simulator. We try to keep it realistic. Could I have possibly given up a fourth and less? Maybe, but then it didn't match up to the chart. And when we do mock drafts, at least when I do mock drafts, I don't try to manipulate the system. I want to keep it the way I think it could be most realistic. And again, calling Isaiah Bond whack in early April, a few weeks before any rookie is drafted, is very interesting to me, man. Minus a ridiculous take, though. The receivers you mentioned are all interesting. I'll say that. Jalen Noel, Jalen Royals, I'm sorry, or Kyle Williams. I think a third or fourth rounder sounds about where the Bills could and should target a wide receiver. And Isaiah Bond is meeting with the Bills. So whack or not, he is in the mix. At Joe Z80 SL5PW. It's a long ass screen name. I could see Ravel slip to 30, even with year old plus ACL, as Bean does like that Carolina stamp. He's healthy, and I believe it will be there. And I agree on the defensive tackle depth. Alfred Collins at 56 would have been my pick to team up with Oliver, that Texas Houston connection. Elite run grade in the 95 range, and then get speed wide out at 62. Bond, you can't teach speed. Royals, Felton, or even Williams. Good takes, man. Look, Ravel's interesting because of the injury. He's a top 15 guy in this draft, I think, for sure, if it's not for the ACL. Don't really have much to add there. Look, I love this time of year with the draft. I really do. It kind of puts us all in school education mode. You know, you're trying to learn as much as humanly possible about as many prospects as you can in a relative short amount of time. And for the casual fans, they don't even start thinking about the draft until free agency for the most part is done, which is where we're at right now. All right, last Bills topic coming up right here. Stick to the model says we have more draft capital than we need roster spots. If you were to trade up for one position, where and what would it be? Good question, man. Thank you for that. I like that. All right, so I want a defensive tackle and a cornerback who could start potentially from day one. Those are my two things, and a lot of yours as well. I mean, I'd like to get an edge, but to me, that's more important. A defensive tackle, because I think Daquan Jones is about at the end of the road. Plus, I just think they need another good defensive tackle in that rotation, and obviously a corner who could potentially start from day one. That's what I want. So I'm keeping pick 30, okay? And I'm taking one of those two. And whichever one I don't get at 30, I'm moving up from 56 in the second round to get the other position. So if I take using David's mock draft that we did yesterday, he took Trey Amos near the end of the first round, the corner. If that's what really happens, I'm the Bills. There's a lot of defensive tackle depth. There's going to be a run at defensive tackle in the early to mid part of round two. So I'm moving up from 56. I'm keeping 30, and I'm finding a way to move up from 56 to make sure I get one of those good defensive tackles that I covet. So that'd probably be the trade for me. Not moving up in the first round, but having two second rounders, I'm going to use one of them. I'm going to move up with it for sure. At Roger036. Almost afraid to ask you this, but what do you make of the Buffalo Sabres getting hot down the stretch here? Hurts their draft status potentially, but on the positive side, shows some promise for what could be next season. Don't take this personal, Roger. Thank you for the submission. Don't take this personal. First and foremost, I am and will remain pessimistic. Straight up. This franchise will never, ever, 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 ever get the benefit of the doubt from me again. Did I say ever? Ever. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't from you either or anyone else, man. I don't give a shit if you're a casual fan, a hardcore fan, media, content creator, does not matter. Shame on you if you're allowing this bullshit that we're seeing lately to give them any benefit of the doubt going forward. They don't deserve it. I don't buy it at all. To me, them going 7-3 in their last 10 games, that's literally to me nothing other than them hurting their chances for getting a top 3 or 4 pick in this draft. Mike Harrington would cringe at me saying that, I don't give a shit. I straight up don't. Right? Nothing more, nothing less, period. Them winning these games at the end of the season ain't doing shit to help them as far as I'm concerned in the future. And it's probably going to knock them down a couple slots. So Matthias Samuelsson, hasn't been a complete and absolute disaster lately. Great. Let's not trade him. Let's not buy him out. Let's keep him around. Jack Quinn has found his game. He's got a 5-game point streak now. He's been playing really good lately. Great. Fantastic. Why don't we make him a top 6 guy next year? Because I certainly buy into Jack Quinn in freaking March, late March, early April, starting to play good hockey. Look, this team always plays better when they're buried in the standings. No one cares. There's no expectation. And then bam, they're better. Other than the hardcore fan base, there ain't eyes on them. That's a fact. That's a fact. They do this a lot. All right. Look, Tage Thompson is great. Rasmus Dahlin is great. Alex Tuch is really, really good. 32 goals this year. He's been outstanding. Ryan McLeod was a trade steal. All right. Love Ryan McLeod. Owen Power, Zach Benson. Great potential still in varying ways. Like you see a lot in them, but they got a long way to go, especially Power, but you really see the potential in them still. Zucker, a few others are fine. That's it. That's it. The goaltender that they gave a 5-year contract to last year stinks. All right, he stinks. He's not even the best goalie on his team, and you gave him a 5-year contract. All right, the defense often stinks. Special teams stink. The owner who wouldn't spend money and wouldn't let Lenny Ruff even have his own freaking assistants stink. Adams makes a couple, good decisions, but I think he has zero respect around the league from other general managers, from players. Ain't nobody want to come here. He doesn't have the ability to convince them that this is a good place to be. He doesn't win anyone over. So for that, he stinks too. All right. People keep harping on, if it was for the 13-game winning streak, they may end up in the playoffs. Well, no fucking shit. No shit. You don't lose 13 games in a row. That's how you don't do that. Every year, it's something that buries them. Every year. That's what happens when you're a shit franchise, all right? They're 6th from the bottom right now in the league, 2nd last in the East. I don't care if they win 7 of their last 8 to end this regular season. I will have, quite literally, zero faith in them that come next November and December, they won't be just toiling away in mediocrity or even worse than that all over again. Ugh. Scott Monteleone says, inconsistent team gets hot after the playoffs become a fairy tale dream. Fans and general managers start romanticizing 1 or 2 bounces ideology just to watch the team flounder by January. Wash, rinse, repeat. Look, Scott, 100%, man. If I had the energy or motivation, I'd research what the Sabres record is once they're 10 points or more out of a playoff spot versus what the record is when they're within 7 points. I bet it's worlds apart different. Sloan. Unfortunately, I think this is how Adam thinks. He'll look at a small sample size of play and think we're improving. So, hey, run it back. His pressure at the end of the year will be, we're right where we need to be. Yeah. So, right yet again, man. Look, I feel bad for really, and look, however Sabre fans feel, I'll never criticize. If you got the balls to watch his team play year after year after year and subject yourself and go through it all with them, I give you a lot of credit. I really do. I really do. But I feel really bad for the really young Sabre fans out there who ain't even old enough to know how it was here, even a dozen or so years ago. The enthusiasm, the passion that so many people have for Buffalo Sabres hockey is just sad. All right, last one of the day here, man. After listening to your pod with Joe from Queens, which is always my favorite pod because of the wrestling aspect. Anyway, if you didn't find the Kelsey Swift movie, it was Christmas in the Spotlight. Yes, that was it. Oh my God, it was driving me crazy on the live show that we did last Sunday night. I couldn't remember it. in real time. We were talking about the Bills' upcoming Christmas movie, and I did watch last year's Chiefs one, and it was just dog shit. It really was a huge pile of shit, which I'm sure the holiday touchdown Bills love story movie is going to be as well. But I'm here for it though. I like cheesy shit. I like nostalgia. I like cheese. Give me it. The cornier, the better. And it's probably going to be pretty corny. I am looking forward to seeing Bill's Mafia reactions when this movie drops. Who finds it adorably stupid and who just finds it absolutely idiotic stupid. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be terrible, man. And by the way, relax on the Joe from Queens love, all right? Because that shit is definitely getting to his head. And speaking of, gonna end this here. Like I said, on the next podcast Monday, we're gonna have a discussion about Terry Bagul. I think it's time to, try to figure out how much credit he deserves for the Bills. A lot of people, because they're also Sabre fans and they hate him because of the Sabres and he's cheap and this and that. A lot of people don't want to give Terry credit on the football side either. And they'll just simply say he got lucky, with Sean McDermott and, Brandon Bean. And then they got lucky with Josh Allen and they just don't want to give him credit for anything. I really don't think that's the case. So we'll talk about that plenty more coming up on Monday. But anyway, thank you very much as always for watching, for listening. Another week in the books. I truly appreciate you. Like I said, brand new episode coming up with Joe from Queens on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, folks.